and welcome to the Rangers News YouTube channel. My name is Cameron Willis, and in this video I'm going to be focusing on the fringe and academy stars who are set to move on or have been linked with a move away from Ibrox this January. Now obviously Rangers are going well domestically and in Europe, but there have been some players in and around Steven Gerrard's squad who have not been able to get a sniff this season. Rangers boss Gerrard admitted that some of those fringe stars could be moved on, whilst there have already been a few academy players who have moved out of the club. So here we go, this is the 9 or so Rangers academy and fringe players who have been linked with a move away this winter. Now the first group of players that we're going to look at is academy youngsters who have already left the club. Now the most prominent of these is obviously 18-year-old winger Kai Kennedy. He put an end to protracted negotiations regarding his contract and his future, to put it mildly, by signing a 2.5-year deal at Ibrox. He's one of the club's highest rated youth players, and following links to the likes of Bayern Munich, Man City and Liverpool, somewhat had his head turned in the summer, or as Ross Wilson put it in the Rangers announcement for Kennedy's contract, bad advice. Whatever the case, Gerrard responded, or appeared to respond to it directly or indirectly, without naming Kennedy, by discussing ego in the academy during the Viola tournament in France. He would say that if players don't commit to Rangers, then they won't be able to break into his first team, and I think the message was loud and clear. Kennedy would go out on loan for 6 months to Inverness, where for all intents and purposes he impressed in John Robertson's side. So he came back to Rangers in January, he signed a new deal, and now he is off to Wraith Rovers. The reason for this was outlined by the club, as they claimed that Kennedy would like to be closer to his family during the COVID-19 pandemic, and in what is difficult times for everybody, we cannot blame him. We wish him all the best. Hopefully he has a good spell in the Scottish Championship and continues his development, and yeah, maybe next season we might begin to see the best of Kennedy, or the early stages of his career at Ibrox. The next most recognisable name on the list is none other than Josh McPeek, the former Rangers Academy Player of the Year. Still only 19, there's plenty of room for McPeek to develop, but previous loan spells haven't gone to plan for the once highly rated winger. He obviously broke through into the Rangers first team last season, making his debut against, I think it was St Joseph's in the Europa League, and was eventually farmed out on loan to Dundee, where injuries and a lack of form disrupted the spell. This season they spent the first half of the campaign on loan at Greenock Morton, but for the rest of the campaign he's going to try his hand south of the border as he signs a deal with League 2 Harrogate Town. A very talented young player with bags of ability, and who looks like he's beefed up as well. Let's hope that he can recapture some of the form that he was displaying in youth football, which had him so highly rated by Rangers, and come back up and, just like Kennedy, compete for a place in the first team. There are another 3 academy players who've moved out on loan already this January, although all 3 of the players are yet to make their top team debuts for Rangers. One of these is Rhys Breen, who has swapped Partick Thistle for Queen of the South in the Championship. That's a little step up, and it comes at the right time, obviously, with lower league football shutting down. The other name is Jack Thompson from Clyde. He's a young 18-year-old midfielder who was highly praised by Clyde boss Danny Lennon, and joins the likes of Matthew Shields and Cammy Palmer on loan there. They're another 2 Rangers Academy youngsters. And the final name is goalkeeper Nicky Hogarth, who joins Cowdenbeath for the rest of the season. Now it goes without saying that we obviously hope all these young players enjoy fruitful spells in the lower divisions of Scotland, and hopefully it is the next step in their development as they look to stake a claim for a place in the Rangers squad going forward. Another group of players linked with the Ibrox exit door are those who have not made as many appearances as they perhaps would have liked this season. There are a few players, but not an overwhelming amount of them, who have found themselves on the fringes of Steven Gerrard's squad this campaign. Gerrard himself has been very open about the need to move these players on, and whilst there's only a handful, not even a handful, we're going to have a look at the names who've been linked out of the club. Rangers star Jordan Jones is obviously a fairly polarising figure at Ibrox, and he didn't help his chances amongst the Gers support with a COVID-19 breach, or a high profile COVID-19 breach earlier in the season. Alongside George Edmondson, obviously Jones attended a party, it was shut down by police, he was issued a fixed penalty notice and eventually a 7-match ban alongside a suspension and an investigation by Rangers. Now, Jones has battled back from the brink several times at Rangers, and he seems to be perennially linked with a move away. There's obviously Championship clubs once again being linked with a move for the player, but as of yet there's been nothing concrete. Steven Gerrard has kept the door open for the player to return to his squad, but he revealed last week that the player's carrying an injury. Where he goes next I don't know, but he was obviously going to be a part of the team this season. His ban was actually up on Boxing Day and we've yet to see him, so perhaps it might be better for all parties if he moves on, but perhaps Jones has a point to prove. If he is to win the favour of Rangers fans, he can only do it on the pitch. So whilst what he did was reckless, stupid, daft, potentially put the season at jeopardy, perhaps we all deserve second chances, and I think no one's been clearer about that than Steven Gerrard. Jones's partner in crime is another name being linked with the Ibrox exit door, but things might be a little bit trickier to get Emondson out if that is the intention. Emondson is apparently about to see a specialist on a hip injury, which you would think would keep him out for a substantial period of time. He's still young. Emondson. Rangers forked out a reported $650k to bring him from Oldham, and for all intents and purposes, up until that daft COVID breach, he was quite a popular figure amongst the Rangers support. It's not clear exactly where his future lies and what's going to happen next. I think he signed a 4-year deal last season, and he is quite highly regarded. He's only 23, and there is probably room for him to come back into it at Rangers, but whether or not he will, or whether or not his place has now been taken by the likes of Leon Balogun or the returning Nikola Katic kind of remains to be seen. He's another that's been linked prominently with a loan move out of the club, but due to injury it looks like he will not be able to move on this January. Another name being prominently linked with an exit, and someone who a lot of fans and a lot of players that he's worked with in the past feel hasn't really got the rub of the green or enough chances at Rangers, is forward player Greg Stewart. Now, Greg Stewart was very highly rated at Dundee. He scored a lot of goals. He earned a move to Birmingham. It didn't happen for him there. He then returned. He had a blistering first 6 months, I think it was last season, or no, the season before, sorry, with Kilmarnock, and then he moved on loan to Aberdeen before eventually signing a deal with his boyhood club Rangers. And we've seen in flashes what the guy is capable of. He's a technical kind of forward, he's tricky, he's always in and around the box, and apparently he's amongst the best finishers at the club, but for whatever reason Stewart doesn't appear to be fancied. Now, Rangers of course have been linked with a move for Aberdeen kind of wide player or attacking midfielder Scott Wright. Stewart's been mentioned by some as a potential kind of swap deal replacement, with Stewart's contract also expiring at the end of the season. It's a shame, because it's always good to see one of our own do well at Rangers, but it just seems as if there's just so much competition in that area of the pitch that perhaps Stewart would be better served elsewhere for the remainder of the season. And the final fringe player, at least to our knowledge, or in terms of the reports that are doing the rounds, or if we've missed anybody out, just leave a comment below and let us know, is Glenn Middleton. Now, Glenn Middleton burst onto the scene at Ibrox as a teenager in Steven Gerrard's first season in charge. He obviously signed from Norwich, that's where he came through the youth ranks. He was signed when Graham Murray was in charge, and he remains a very highly rated kind of young player in Scottish football. He is only 21. We saw him briefly against Falkirk where he was employed in a kind of left back role, and then Stephen Gerrard alluded that this might be a position that he plays in the future. But Middleton probably needs game time to advance his development, and there have been a number of Dutch clubs linked to his services. Now, you cast your mind back to last season, a few Dutch clubs were interested in Middleton then. He opted to move to Hibs, and things didn't really work out as planned for him in Edinburgh. So maybe a move to a technical league like the Dutch league, where he can kind of express himself on the pitch and develop those kind of technical abilities, would be a good one for Middleton. But whatever the case, it is probably pretty vital that he gets more minutes under his belt, and then hopefully he can return a player that can compete for a first team place, because when he broke through into the first team he was very exciting, very direct, and he actually I think managed 5 goals that season as well. So yep, a good wee player, but probably needs a refresh, and a loan move might be the best for him this January. So that is it from me for this video. Originally I had planned to do like a kind of analysis of Rangers' entire transfer window in terms of outgoings, where I looked at academy players, fringe players, and then the first team stars that have been linked. But in the post edit I realised that might be pretty long, so I've decided to make one video about the academy and fringe stars, and then another video that will be released later this week about the 6 or so first teamers who've been linked with an exit in January. So stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy it, please like, please subscribe, please let me know, please join in the conversation. If there's any other players that you think that should be getting shifted out, or if any of these fringe players you think deserve another opportunity, then please just let me know. But for now, I'm away, and I will see you later on in the week. Come on, the teddy bears.